Welcome to the Hopenning, the place where hope is happening, with your hosts Fran and Marina Theron-Monnery. For more information about Fran and Marina, or to apply to be a guest on the show, please go to our website www.hopenning.com. The Hopenning is for informal purposes only and is based on the research of your hosts, Fran and Marina. They, as well as their guests, are not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from this podcast, which is not intended to replace any professional medical advice or care by medical professionals you are currently utilizing.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hopenning, the place where hope is happening. My beautiful co-host Marina and I are looking at overwhelm today and how to overcome it. It seems like every day we hear stories of people who succumbed to being overwhelmed. And this time of year, it's Easter when we're recording this, it seems especially poignant. So, Marina, why did you choose overwhelm as a topic today?
Well, it's something that is a little bit close to my heart at the moment, Fran. We are in the middle of renovations. It started last week, Wednesday, today's Friday, and they ripped our entire upper floor up, replaced all the flooring, and my second bathroom had the toilet was sitting in the bathtub until yesterday, and they put new covers. We redid our bedroom, and that went fast. The bedroom went very fast, and I could put everything together. It was lovely. But then they broke down a wall in my kitchen, between my kitchen and my dining room, and I have not had a kitchen since end of last week, which means that yeah, I live in a box. And just when I thought, okay, at least I have my bedroom, I have my office, and they made such a mess that it was so dusty that I had trouble breathing. And I have this throat infection. So all of that made me at some point feel, wow, this is too much. That feeling of overwhelm. And that's just when you and I decided, what are we going to talk about today? And it's not a new feeling for me. I can remember when I felt it first. I was a child and I felt overwhelmed by school. I struggled in school, and it's only later in life that I realized I had undiagnosed ADHD with no help at all and constant pressure. And in South Africa, a very traditional school system, you had to fit into a certain box. I did not fit in there. Beside, I was so hyperactive that my parents decided at the age of 5, a year earlier than all my peers, that they better put me in school now. And I always felt younger. And couple that with I'm really tall. So I never looked like I was out of place, but in my maturity, in my development, my brain development, I felt behind. I felt it. Athletics, I could never compete with the children my age. I had to compete with the children a year behind us, but not my age, my standard group. And so that I became overwhelmed. And everything would overwhelm me. And I call it check out. I would start to daydream. Sometimes I wish I could get that skill back because I stopped it, because I think that would serve me well in meditation today. But I checked out. I would just stop doing things. I would distract myself. I would go find something else to do. And a lot of times, Fran, I would give up. I would just not do things. And I can give you a long list of things. So tell me about your experience with feeling overwhelmed.
As I'm listening to you, I'm reminded of my schooling, and I started school young as well. I have a January birthday, So I was put in with the year before, but I had a sister who was 11 months older than me, and she helped me, right? And so I did not feel overwhelmed in school. Uh, I remember being in high school, and math was more difficult in high school because my brain, my developmentally brain, was not ready for the algebra and the logarithms and stuff that we were doing at that time. I didn't check out, but I really I I made it easy for me to do other things other than study. And later, when I went back and took the same course, because developmentally I was ready for it, I did much better. When I think about overwhelm, I think about when I was a young mom and I was teaching full time, had small children to raise, had a husband who was not helpful. He was addicted himself, and that was when I felt overwhelmed. And that was when I felt that I couldn't do it. I just could not handle everything. And at that point, I came to a real place of hopelessness. Um, so yeah, that was my first experience was overwhelm was as an adult, already in my 30s. So
It's interesting, Fran, because I think um, I recently had a young client. Um, she is just on the cusp of adulthood, and so she felt a lot of pressure in her life, and she felt overwhelmed. She came to me for procrastination. And when we dug into the reason, the root cause of the procrastination, it was exactly the same issue: overwhelmed. She's overwhelmed, overwhelmed with life decisions, overwhelmed with the pressure of performing well in school, overwhelmed of deciding which university to go to, overwhelmed with the thought, will I be good enough to go to the university of my choice? So a lot of things that at that tender age of 18 she had to decide, and that again made me think of my own life. And I get this so many times with clients when they look back at where things went wrong in life. Sometimes it's exactly at that age when they have to decide, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? Now, remember when you were 18, did you know? Did you really know what you wanted to do?
absolutely not.
Exactly. Exactly. Yet we put that pressure on young kids today to decide, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? It doesn't work like that. So yes, I remember at the exact same age for me, I just graduated high school and I was actually 17 years old, and my sister got married a couple of days after my last paper was done. And we went on holidays and I had a panic attack. And I think I can draw everything back to being overwhelmed. And at that point in my life, I had no coping skills. I had no understanding of what it was. So again, um, to get over the panic attack, I would take my pocket money and bribe my brothers to come sleep on the floor in my bedroom at night. And we were on holiday. I will never forget it, because I would wake up in with night terrors in the middle of the night and have no coping skills of what to do with that, and be too afraid to go back to sleep. And when I finally went to speak to a doctor, he put me on antidepressants, and that didn't help. It did not help at all. It did not stop. It took. I was a young mother when finally I had, in a way, in my head, help, and it never came back. But so let's go back to when you were 18 years old and you had to make that decision. I am now an adult. I now basically have to leave my parents' house. What am I doing?
At that time, my parents were not interested in funding any education for me. Um, yeah, my parents, you know, if I look back on it now, I could say, I could look at that in two ways, right? I could say I was a victim. My parents wouldn't pay for my university. Woe is me. But what I do choose to say instead is I had to work. So I went to work pumping gas. Back in the day when we still had a gas attendant, that was me. I was pumping gas until it got too
Amazing.
cold that winter and it was super cold. And then I did a different, really low paying jobs, right? And I saved money and I didn't go to university for 6 years.
Well,
But within that time period, within that time of 6 years, I grew. I grew mentally, emotionally, so that I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a special education teacher. So, you know, looking back on it, and we always have a good look in the rearview mirror, it was for my best to not go to university, to not have
yeah,
that money spent, to not be forced. Really, it was being forced out of my comfort zone to go to university. I was only 17 as well. I was a rural kid who lived 4.5 hours away from a university. I was super sheltered in my small isolated community. So it was for my best to really do save the money, feel a sense of accomplishment, and then go to university. So what you said before about 18-year-olds being forced to make a choice, many of them are taking a year off or
yeah,
more to
yeah,
figure out what they're doing. And so I think that's a good idea, not just because monetarily wise, don't put money into something that's not a good investment,
right,
but
exactly.
also take some time, think about it, do some comparison studies, right? Because at the time
Mhm.
it's like, what do I really want? Do I want an education or do I want to pump gas for the rest of my life? So you get a
Yeah.
better idea when you have more time in the field to really stop and think.
What I really like about your story, I mean, understandably, Fran, I know that you are one of the youngest of many children, 12, right?
Mhm.
And so by then you can understand that in your parents' situation, there was just no means after taking care of 12 children to pay for university as well. And sometimes I think there's a novelty in that. When you have to decide as a young person that nothing will stop you, you'll make a way. And it's that resilience. And yet, how many times today do you encounter clients who say, no, I couldn't do something because my parents couldn't pay for it?
You hear it all the time. You
Yeah.
hear it all the time. And I think, you know, we're talking now about a housing crisis in Canada. Um, and I'm on two fields with that, right? Because yes, in the big cities there is a hard housing crisis, but Canada is huge. And there's not a housing crisis in the rest of Canada, which is
Right.
99% is the other part of Canada where
Right.
the biggest population doesn't live. So it's all about what we are looking at, right, Marina? If our blinders are on and that's all we can see, um, and we choose not to take blinders off, yeah, we're going to say I couldn't do it because we're focused so narrowly
Right.
and not opening up the possibilities. The possibilities are always endless,
Right.
but depending upon what we choose, what viewfinder we choose to look through, I think we can get overwhelmed.
And it goes back to me to what you just said about the whole concept of when you make that choice to have the tunnel vision or um, the very narrow vision or a wider vision to look at the bigger picture and the I cannot do it attitude. And I think that is one of the biggest things with being overwhelmed, sometimes that feeling like I cannot.
Yeah.
Now there was a Afrikaans saying when I grew up, and I remember my grandmother used to say it a lot. I'm gonna say it in Afrikaans, and I will try to translate it literally because it was a rhyme. Kan nie stoet van kry waar stoet. And it literally means that cannot died pushing a wheelbarrow. But you know, the meaning was that there is no such thing as cannot. And so
Yeah.
whenever I would say a kannie, my grandmother would say, Marina, kannie is stoet van kry waar stoet. And so you start to think, okay, but do I have options? Yes. What are my options now in the state that my house is in? It's Easter weekend. I would love to have a Sunday Easter lunch or dinner with my family. There's no way I can do it. I can, but we will be eating out of paper plates on our laps. And so
Cooking on
it's
the barbecue.
no. Well, I can make the food. I have my barbecue. I have other wonderful kitchen gadgets that I can use. Um, you can even make my very important coffee in the morning. That was my first priority. But it's that cannot. So in this situation, I have something to look forward to. It's not a matter of excuse me, my throat is not great yet. It's not a matter of I'm gonna give up. I cannot give up. And there's something better coming. And in my case, it's tangible. Like just to look at my bedroom. If you look behind me, last time we recorded, I think I had carpets here. Very old, dirty carpets that was put into this house when it was built in the 80s. So it was time. So now it's beautiful. It's brand new. It's lovely. And I love it. So I have something to look forward to. But I remember, Fran, when my second child was born, which was this past Wednesday, 27 years ago, because of sciatic issues that I've had all my since my 20s, I could not give normal birth. So I had C-sections. And when you have that first experience, you have absolutely no idea what to expect. So I went through it with a smile on my face, feeling fantastic and excited. And I had my first son in 1994. But now the second one in 1997, I knew exactly what to expect. So I started to get a panic attack again, overwhelmed with emotions. And I remember I just wanted to check out. I wanted to almost faint to just escape the situation, and I couldn't. I just had to go through it. And he was delivered safely, and in a sense, it was easier than the first one because this time I did know what to expect with recovery. So that overwhelm. So if you think of overwhelm, what is it that really overwhelms us?
I think it's exactly what you said. You look forwards, right? You're in this place where your toilet's in the bathtub and you have no kitchen sink, but you look forward. So you envision, right? You imagine, you plan, you imagine, you've got the blueprints. You've got a blueprint. And you know, with digital fidgeting and stuff nowadays, you might even have a picture of what your kitchen will look like, right? So we look forwards, we look to the future. We pay attention to what getting an education or whatever it will be will bring us in the future. So if we can keep looking forwards, and I think what you said reminded me of comfort zone. We get so familiar with the carpets that are 80 years in the 80s, right? So I mean, is that a 40-year-old carpet? Basically, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so we've got comfortable with this carpet, and you know, we imagine the overwhelm that's going to happen if we rip all the carpets out and it's just too big. Let's not go there. Let's not do it. Let's not go there today. And then we end up putting it off. And the more we put things off, the more the overwhelmed thought of ripping the carpet out, taking the toilet, taking the kitchen cupboards. It's way too overwhelming. So I think comfort zone and just taking baby steps, right? Taking that little baby step, uh, touching the water and then getting out before you jump head first in. For those types of people that seem to get overwhelmed and stuck and procrastinate, I think the best thing is to take baby steps. How about yourself, Marina? What?
Well, I think the root cause of overwhelm is definitely the story we tell ourselves. It's the anticipation, it's the fear
Yeah.
that of something that's not pleasant. It's all in our heads. It's all about our thoughts. And I want to go back to the lady who trained us. I can reach for the book here. Tell yourself a better lie. Well, personally, I don't like to lie. And even though I think it's part of the human nature, it's not something I consciously like to do. So I say, tell yourself a better story.
Mhm.
So better story is I did not have to do any of the work. I do a little bit of the cleanup. And yesterday, pardon me, it was such a joy to go and wash these new floors, vacuum it, wash it in no time. And it's squeaky clean. It's not like that old carpet that now have 40 years of dust soaked into it. And it was so, I was singing in my heart while I was cleaning this because I wanted to get this layer of dust off. And the clean smell and the clean feel, and I could walk over it and not feel the dust under my bare feet. And so change that story. Last night we were watching TV and I was starting to just doze off and close my eyes and imagine in 2 weeks from now, this is going to look fantastic. And everything is in boxes down in our basement. And yesterday I felt like eating yogurt with some nuts. And I'm like, where are the nuts? And having to go look for things. And then, okay, but I have nuts to eat. I have yogurt to eat. I have a fridge that's still working. To change that story. And I remember, Fran, one of our very first episodes when um, we started at the end of 2022. Is that right?
I think
Yes.
so.
It was towards the beginning of 2023 when we did an episode about capturing thoughts because it was our New Year's kind of episode, capturing your thoughts, and that is still so relevant here today. If you can manage to capture those thoughts, that will overwhelm you because it is not what's happening around you that's overwhelming you. It is your thoughts. And to go back to what was the root cause for me to fall into the cycle of being overwhelmed and checking out and giving up. It was the underlying belief that I am not good enough, that I cannot do it.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, what is your experience with that?
I think I think you and I have built practices into our life. And they are practices. For me, they're rituals. They're something that I try not to mess with, right? So when we get up in the morning, we do certain things to keep our mindset healthy so that when these types of things come into your life, that we're more able because we're already vibrating at a higher level. So, Marina, what practices do you have in the morning? And I know you do have them because you get up early. What practices do you have in the morning that keeps your mind functioning at a higher vibrational level so that when overwhelm tries to come in, because you won't let it, right? Tries to come in, you have the ability to say, oh, I love looking forward in 2 weeks. So what do you do for yourself?
So, mindfulness is something that is quite a popular thing these days. But how? How do you become mindful? And my first thing in the mornings, you can see the lazy boy behind me here. My first thing in the mornings, I get up, I put my house coat on, I close this door because if I don't, even right now, the cat would be all over me. And this is my time. I meditate. And my meditation is growing. I used to do a lot of guided meditations. Today, many times I practice just letting my mind calm down. Fighting with what my friend Lebay, I interviewed him last night. He talks about the monkey brain.
Mm.
To understand that those thoughts that is constantly cluttering your what you are aware of, your awareness. It's not always really you. There's a difference between who you really are and those constant thoughts. And it's in those constant thoughts that there are so many of the negatives in our lives, the stories we tell ourselves. In those conscious thoughts, oh, you don't have time to meditate today. You need to go and start to clean up and go clean the dining room table, because if you clean the dining room table, then maybe you can eat there today instead of, I want to eat in the dining room table right now. It's chaos right there. It doesn't matter. So quiet that mind down. Let's think of another example. You walk past somebody in the street and you say, "Hi, Marina," and that Marina ignores you. And what does your mind say immediately? Oh, she doesn't like me anymore. What's wrong with her? She has suddenly become somebody else and she's ignoring me. And did I do something to offend her? That's our minds. Is that the reality? 9 out of 10 times not. But we sometimes become obsessed with those thoughts. When my children first started to drive, and I would tell them, okay, because here in Canada, children start to drive quite young. I would tell them, okay, I need you to be home by a certain time. So the time comes, they're not here yet. And at that point, I'm not going to try and call them when I think they're driving, because I didn't want them to talk and drive. So where are they? Where are they? Oh, what if they were in an accident? Anticipation of fear, an anticipation of something that's bad. That's our mind. So mindfulness, we take that time every morning. And sometimes that's half an hour, sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it is an hour and a half, sometimes it's two, depending on my day. I take that hour and I turn that mind off, and I have to work at it. And a lot of times I have to tell it to shut up, because I need to recharge my batteries. I need to stop thinking so much. And that is quite important to me. Another thing I do is, like I did last night, sitting downstairs, dozing off, instead of saying, "Oh my gosh, I cannot stand this anymore," to say, "I'm so grateful that we can do this. We are going to have a brand new house. I'm so grateful." There are people, talk about the housing crisis, who struggle today in the city I live in to have a roof over their heads. I'm so grateful that I can make my roof over my head amazingly beautiful. I'm so grateful. So that's another thing I do. Consciously capture those thoughts when they come up. So how do I know when a thought is negative? It's the feeling. What is the feeling it creates in me? Overwhelm. If a thought makes me feel, "Oh, now I'm overwhelmed," I say to myself, "Oh no, let's change that thought. I'm excited." If it's about something that I have to do, um, I feel overwhelmed by something I want to study, and now I'm procrastinating because I already feel overwhelmed by the volume of this. So no, 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 go back. Just read one page today. That's all. It takes one page. You don't have to read the whole book. Starting to exercise after not exercising for a while again, I was so out of shape. And I would walk up this hill being so out of breath, and then I would tell myself, only a few more steps, just give one more step, but I can do it. And so before you know it, life looks different. But Fran, I tell you, when I, for some reason or the other, skip my morning meditation, this monkey brain takes over. So
James
tell me
Clear.
about your practices.
Yeah, James Clear, and he wrote the book Tiny Habits,
Right.
which I've got on my shelf. He said that 2 days, all we can do is not do our habit, our good habit for 2 days, and we're on a slippery slope. If we miss our meditation 2 days in a row, if we miss our workout, if we miss our gratitude list, if we miss whatever good habit keeps us habitual, if we miss it more than 2 days in a row, there's a very good chance we're going to be way in the ditch. So for me, it's the same thing. When I get up in the morning, I get on my knees. First thing, I get on my knees and I just ask Jesus, God, to lead me today. So whatever comes up today, just it's his will, not mine. So first thing is like putting my faith in a higher power, because without my higher power, I know that I'm screwed. I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm just this little tiny minuscule piece of the universe. So that's what I do first. And then after brushing my teeth and all that, I come back and I do my workout listening to scripture. So I listen to scripture, and that's for 15 minutes or so. And then I'll have my meditation practice for another 15 minutes or so. And then I build my morning whatever exercise, if I go for a run or whatever after that. And then I have a gratitude list. So I write it out, a full page of gratitude. And the more you write, the more you remember. So if it's like there was nothing that I am grateful for yesterday, my brain will tell me, and it's probably God within is telling me, really, Fran, how about da 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 da? And so I'll write that one thing, thank you, God, for. And then it's like, then another thing comes. So yeah. And then by the time I get to the bottom of the page, I've got a full page of gratitude. I always try to be thankful for things that I am not really thankful for. So say something happened, like I broke my mom's favorite teapot that I had, right? I am not grateful for that. Like personally, I feel terrible. However, I will still say, thank you, God. I feel sad because I broke my mom's favorite teapot. I don't know how it works, Marina, but it works. And we are told in my faith to be grateful in all things. And so even the things that we don't want to be grateful for because they are horrible and messy, we still need to be grateful for the feeling that I had that opportunity. So yeah, I'm sad that I broke my mom's favorite teapot. I'm grateful for the feeling of sadness, because a feeling of sadness is much better than a feeling of numb. So, yeah, you and I, because we've been in the profession for a while, we know that we need our habit stack, because the monkey brain is more than happy to take over and start throwing fruit around and whatever else monkeys throw. So, yeah. So we covered a lot of topics, Marina. We
That's
covered,
right. And I want to come back to something else. I mean, you with your faith, to me, it's changing also, what you occupy yourself with. It's so easy today to get distracted by electronics and watch meaningless things and waste a lot of time. And that to me became an escape sometimes as well. Quickly play a game on my phone instead of going to do something that makes me feel overwhelmed. But I've changed that as well, Fran. I love to find motivational things to listen to on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcast. I find I would just type in something inspirational, motivational. So I would listen to stories that inspire me over and over again, and it feels good. And I also uh, when I watch TV, and I know you don't watch TV at all, but I still do. I think my husband will have a heart attack if I tell him no more TV. But so we watch TV. So the the things you watch, be very careful to pay attention to that feeling inside of you. Does it make you feel grateful for life? Does it make you feel in awe of life? And I think that's so important, to be in awe of this life that the divine gave us and to live it in gratitude that we have it. Thinking of your mom's teapot. The teapot broke, but you still have tea. Well, I'm sorry the teapot broke, but you still have tea. And sometimes we are blindsided by the container instead of the content. And so is life. We get distracted by things that are not ideal instead of the things that still are. We still have life. I focus a lot with my clients on your heart. Imagine your heart. And for everybody listening right now, even you, if you close your eyes just for 1 minute and just imagine your heart. Imagine that you can see it beating. You feel it. Now just be quiet for a few seconds and listen to that heartbeat. Now give gratitude to your heart. Because if that heart is not working, you will not be here. And that heart is a symbol of life. And where there is life, there is hope. So just in gratitude to this beautiful pump, this machine, just give it a little bit of love, give it a little bit of attention, gratitude. Because the heart, in a sense, has the mind of its own as well. That's separate from the brain. And sometimes having our heart mind and our brain mind thinking on the same frequency will change everything. So you can open your eyes and just think of that. Think of this beautiful heart and this beautiful life you have. It's such a gift to have life. But sometimes we get blindsided by everything else that's distracting us from this gift of life. We get distracted by things in the media, stories of fear, doom and gloom. We get distracted by politics, division. It's really not what life is about. If all of us turn back to love, opening our hearts to ourselves and to the rest of humanity, we will change this world. Isn't it time to become more love-centered? And if you go back to overwhelm, just give yourself some love. Go into your heart. Be grateful for this life you have, for every little thing that shows up for you. It's just a little lesson that comes. Just go back to the score. You have your faith. I believe that each of us has a part of the divine in us. I really believe that God is in us and God is love. So what does that make us? Love. And I've had such beautiful experiences in my life, even recently, where I could go to a conference where 2,000 people in one room focus on becoming love, and you feel that energy changing. And you start to see people around you with love. There is nothing like that. And if you now can start to live every day from that point of love, loving yourself, loving everything about your life, whether it is favorable or not. Like you said, thank you, Lord, for that teacup. Just loving it, giving gratitude for it, just giving it your all, and see how your perspective of life changes. If you start to look at your life through the lens of love, everything changes. If I start to look at my renovations through the lens of love, suddenly there is no overwhelm, there's gratitude. So how do you look at things? How do you look at that teacup now?
When I look at, when I get overwhelmed or when I get lonely or fearful or any of those emotions, jealous even, any emotion that's a low vibrating emotion,
Right.
I think of it as my small child inside who's affected uh, because my adult brain logically knows how to work this through. My child inside is a child. So what I will do in those circumstances is I will talk to my inner child the way that a loving parent would, or the way that a loving creator of the universe would, and just say, it's okay. I'm here for you. I'm here for you. And it's okay to be sad, angry, lonely, tired, jealous, whatever. It's okay. I've got you. I've got you. I've got you. And I hug myself and I just give myself the love I needed as a small child at that point. That's rehearsing the story in the brain, right? The fear story or the overwhelm story, because it's not my logical brain. My logical brain knows that the kitchen's going to be finished in 2 weeks and that it's going to look beautiful, or that winter will be over, and or whatever, my children will be safe. It's my inner child that needs the reassurance. And so that's what I do. I reassure my inner child, and it works every time. I just give it time to work. And so there's so many things we can do when we're stuck, because all of us, it doesn't matter who you are, come to a point sometimes where we feel overwhelmed because we're still a small child inside. We still have that small child inside of us. And so I think it's important to, like you said, give yourself credit, give yourself kindness, give yourself the time to feel the feeling. Feel the feeling, to allow that small child the time to feel the feeling. And as soon as you give any child time to be sad, lonely, angry, tired, whatever it is, and give them that hug they need, they feel better. They jump off your lap and they go run away and go play. So if we can be soft with ourselves,
Mhm.
then it's so much easier to feel loving, to feel like there's hope, to feel as though there's a way out and more opportunities.
Yeah,
So
right, indeed. So I
yes.
love the changing of the vibrations, and I think that's the most important thing. If you can recognize that feeling that comes up for you, is it a good feeling or a bad feeling? Is it a high vibration or a low vibration? And a happy feeling is a high vibration. Less than happy feeling is a lower vibration. And we do have the power. We have the choice to change that. We have choice. We don't have to live in that. And it's hard work. I understand. I've been in the deepest pit of depression before. It's hard work to drag yourself out of that, to say, no, there is something else for me. In any situation, whether it's overwhelm or any other darkness that is in your thoughts alone, change it.
Mhm.
And we
Change it.
have the power to do that.
So what's your last message of hope when it comes to overwhelm, Marina?
Just ride that wave. It will go. Tell yourself a better story. Change that vibration. Tell that monkey brain to calm down. That monkey is not the boss, you are. Find that inner voice. Find, like you say so beautifully, Fran, that child self. Find, find that inner child within you and give her the attention she needs. Give her the comfort and give her a voice. Listen to her. What is it that she wants? Not the monkey brain that tells you to give up and be overwhelmed and run away. But that inner child, that still voice within you. And always, always go to where hope is. Always.
I love that. Well, Marina, thank you so much. It's
Fran.
it's Good Friday when we're recording, and Good Friday in the Christian tradition is one of the saddest days, right? It's one of the saddest days. If those of us that go to church on this day, the requiem will be very long. It's a long mass, and it's a sorrowful mass, and yet only 2 days later, right? Just 2 days later, the Sunday morning is the resurrection morning. So I think this topic of overwhelm is so meaningful for today because, yeah, we're those of us that are Christian people. It's a hard day. It's a long, hard day of mourning, and yet if we can remember, just keep on looking, just like you said, keep on looking where the hope is. The hope is 2 days later, and just stay the course. Stay the course. It will get better. Just stay the
Yes.
course.
And in reality, Fran, the hope is here already. It's not 2 days later. It's here. That whole act in your faith has been an act of hope, of giving hope and salvation and a better outcome to people. So it's here already. That knowingness of that hope is here already. You don't have to wait for it. Just open your heart. So, anyway, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you, Fran, for being here on your holy day. And by the time we broadcast this, it will be after Easter. But thank you everybody for watching and finding with us just a little more hope. We will see you next time.
See you soon. Love you.